Hi there! Today we'll be making this animation of a car driving through the city using only CSS and HTML. We've got the wheels rotating, the background shifting to the right, and a doggo driving. Let's get straight into it. So over here we've got a few things that we need to do. So we'll start with adding a background, then adding the car, next we'll add the dog, then we'll rotate the tires, and lastly, we'll slide the background. I've got a folder over here with our index.html file where all of our code is gonna go. And we also have a car, driver, background, and wheel assets, which we'll all need to create this driving effect. Let's kick things off with placing the background. So to get our scene ready, we'll need a scene container div. This div will encapsulate the entire project. Inside of it, we'll add a scene background div as well. This will be where our city background image will be placed. Now, let's go ahead and start with some styling. We'll have a style tag inside of our header tag. And once we do that, we can go ahead and target the scene container. Now, let's go ahead and give the scene container a height of 100 VH for viewport height and a width of 100 VW for viewport width. Let's also give it a border of 1px solid red, just so we can see what's going on. Now, when I hit save, we'll see that we've got some margin and padding. So let's really quickly target the body and give it a margin of 0 and a padding of 0 as well. Now, when we hit save, we can see that there's no margin or padding. So let's now move on to adding our background. So we can target the scene background, then give it a height of 100 VH, and we'll also give it a width of 100 VW. Now we'll add in a background, and we can use our background image by using the URL function and passing in quotes, and then inside of the quotes, we'll have a dot, then a / background.png. Now, when we hit save, we can see the background is there, but the problem is that the background is repeating itself with this bottom part being from the top. So what we'll do is we'll add a background size property. We'll first pass in 100 VW to set the width. Then we'll go ahead and add 100 VH to set the height. Now, once we hit save, we can see that it looks just like we want it to. Let's also go ahead and remove the scene container border because we don't need that anymore. Awesome, so that completes this step. Let's move on to the next step, which is adding our car. So first, we're gonna make a div with a car container class. This will hold everything car related, so the car, the driver, and the wheels. Next, we can go ahead and target the car container. So we can go ahead and set a width of 900 px for the container, and then we'll also give it a height of 310 pixels. Then I'll go ahead and add in a border of 1px solid green. Now, if I hit save, we'll see that this isn't really what we want. The container is below our background, so we need to set the position of it to absolute. And if we hit save, we'll see that this doesn't really do anything for us, at least not yet. But what it allows for us to do is to use the bottom property. So we'll place the container to be 10 pixels from the bottom, and that'll make it 10 pixels from the bottom of the scene container by using bottom 10px. And so now we can see our container at least a little bit. Let me go ahead and change the border width to be 4px, and then I'll hit save. So now we can really see it. So now our car container's on the road, but let's go ahead and center it horizontally. We can do this by using the left property and giving a value of 50%. Then we'll also use the transform property and give it a value of translateX -50%. If we do that, we can see that we both center horizontally and the resizing works fine as well. Great, now let's add in a div with a class name of car inside of the car container. Once we do that, let's go ahead and target it in CSS. We can add a width and a height of 100%, and then let's give a background of our image, which is named car, and we'll do it by using the URL function again. Now, let's also set the position to absolute. Awesome, so now we've got our car in the scene and it's looking really cool. Let's move on to adding the driver. So we need a driver, and who better to use than my dog Goose? So what we can do here is create a div with a driver class. Now let's go ahead and target the driver class, and we'll add a background. Now what we're going to use for the background is the driver PNG, and we can use the URL function like we've done before. Then we'll go ahead and give a height of 200 pixels, a width of 150 pixels. We'll set the background size to be 150 px and then 200 px. Now let's also add a position of absolute. Finally, we'll add a top of 0. If we hit save, we'll see that this sets us to the top corner of our car container. Now we want the driver behind the car, so let's set a z-index of -1 and then hit save. Finally, to position the driver into the driver's seat, let's set a left property of 390 px, and that should set us right to where we want. Now let's move on to adding the rotating wheels. Now this is how we're going to add the wheels. We'll start by adding 2 wheel elements. Now once that's done, we're going to position 1 wheel to the right and 1 wheel to the left. So let's give one of the wheels a class of right and then the other a class of left. Once that's done, let's target the wheel class. The wheel will have a width of 150 pixels, a height of 150 pixels. The background will use the URL function, and then we'll pass in the wheel PNG. Then the background size will be 150 px and then 150 px. Finally, we'll add in a z-index of 2 to make sure it's in front of the car. Let's hit save and see how it looks. Cool, so we have 2 wheels. We're going to want these elements to be directly positioned to where the current car wheels are. Then we'll start to rotate them. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to set the wheels to an absolute position. Then I'm going to go ahead and target the right class. The right class is going to have a top of 160 pixels. Then it'll have left of 668 pixels. Once that's done, I'll go ahead and target the left class, and we'll give it a top of 160 pixels and a left of 147 pixels. Awesome, so if I hit save, we'll see that the wheels are in position, but we can't really tell that they're there, so we're gonna need to rotate them. So on the wheel class, let's add an animation. We'll set up a keyframe named rotator. We'll rotate every 2 seconds, and then we'll use linear as the timing function, and this will be infinite. All right, so let's set up the keyframe named rotator. I'll really quickly write it out, and then we'll go over what's happening. All right, so in order to create this rotation animation, we're gonna have a start point as well as an end point. We're gonna start from a transform property, and the value will be a rotate of 360 degrees. Then we're going to transform to a rotate of 0 degrees. Now, 0 degrees and 360 degrees are the same point, but it's going to give a really nice fluid animation because we're going to go from 360 all the way around back to the start point. Now let's hit save and take a look at our project. It's starting to look really cool, but there's one last step, getting the background to slide. So first, let's remove the car container border before moving on. All right, so let's slide the background. Let's start by adding an animation to the scene background class and giving it a value of slide, 30 seconds, linear will be the timing function, and then infinite. So let's set up our keyframe. We're going to go ahead and name it slide. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go from a transform property of translateX 0, and then we'll go to, and what we're going to do here is we're going to change the transform property to translateX 5000. And so if we hit save, we see that there's some movement horizontally, which is really cool, but we're pushing our background away. So let's change the width of our scene background. We'll change it from 100 viewport width to an arbitrarily large value, like 7,000 pixels. Now let's also give it a margin left of negative 5,000 pixels so that we're driving forward into the background. Now, if we take a look at our project, we've got the final product. We've got a doggo driving through the city streets in their convertible. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks.